Pam Geller, who sponsored tonight's event in Garland, Texas. It was supposed to be a Mohammed art exhibit for freedom of speech. Pam, were you surprised when you heard that gunshots had been fired and that people attempted to attack and disrupt this event? We don't know if it was clearly, we have not been able to confirm that it was clearly related to this, but it would seem so.
Yes, it would seem so. And I was not surprised because we've seen this for the past 10 years. We saw embassies burning, Christians slaughtered in Muslim countries when the Danish cartoons were published back in 2005. And we have seen in the ensuing years the West capitulating to these savage demands on the restrictions of free speech. In the wake of the Charlie Hebdo jihad slaughter, Muslim groups in America held a conference in this very room, in this very venue, to suppress free speech, which is why we chose this room and this venue to stand in defense of free speech. The idea that American Muslim leaders would support the ideology behind the jihad slaughter as opposed to coming out and standing for freedom of speech was deeply disturbing and very, very sad. The fact that tonight we see here in America that the war is here is, it's quite terrible. But look, it was, it was coming. One could see this. And the fact that the West, our political leaders, you have President Obama at the UN declaring that the future does not belong to those that slander the prophet of Islam, this capitulation by Western leaders on a basic, fundamental, unalienable right of freedom of speech has emboldened these savages. And so while I am not surprised, I was deeply distressed. My thoughts and prayers are with the family of the police officer who was shot. And I just want to also say, an enormous amount of respect and kudos that we have for the Garland Police Department, who took this event very seriously, who prepared, which is evidenced by the bloodshed that we were spared by their professionalism and their quick action.
Pam, let me ask you, you did this event based on what took place in January 17th to be exact, and that's what you were talking about in terms of the Muslim leaders coming out and defending what took place with Charlie Hebdo. Do you ever foresee a time that Christians and Muslims can sit down at the table and try to get some dialogue to deal with this situation, to talk about religious freedom and the tolerance of each other's faith?
Look, I live for such a time. I would love for such a time to happen, but it cannot happen until the Islamic texts and teachings calling for the death penalty under Islamic law, under the Sharia, for those that blaspheme, for those that slander Islam or slander Muhammad. And understand that slander under Islamic law is not the same as slander under Western law. Even if it's true under Islamic law, if it insults Islam, then it is punishable by death. This is the punishment for blasphemy under the Sharia. I believe
I've got to ask you then, in knowing that, why this particular event, the Muhammad art exhibit, where you welcome people to do cartoon caricatures of Muhammad, knowing what it incited in the Charlie Hebdo situation, and you had to be thinking at some point it might even incite that kind of unrest here.
Well, what am I to do? Abridge my freedom of speech in order to placate savages? I will not abridge my freedoms so as not to offend savages. Clearly, this ideology must be dragged, even if kicking and screaming, into the 21st century to live among all human beings. It is outrageous. I mean, where are you going to draw the line? What you can say, what you can say, what you can do, what you can't do, what you can think. This is not America. Our founding fathers are weeping in their graves. Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me
But would our
death.
founding fathers, not to put you on the spot, but would our founding fathers have put up a caricature of someone's faith and knowing that it might incite unrest?
American Foreign War and the Second American Foreign War. Our first foreign wars were against the Muslim states, the Barbary, from the shores of Tripoli. We were
Pam,
fighting.
the point is,
we were fighting
the point I'm trying to make. Let me just raise a point here. In doing this event, which is perfectly fine, no matter how controversial it is, there are all kinds of controversies that take place in America. But did it have to be this particular kind of event to prove your point about free speech in America?
Why not? I mean, particularly in light of the jihad slaughter, the winner of the contest, of our contest, was a former Muslim. And he drew a cartoon of Mohammed saying, "You cannot draw me." And you see the cartoonist's hands writing, "That's why I draw you." It's a cartoon. I mean, have we so sunk to such a level of capitulation and surrender that we can somehow rationalize this savagery? I don't agree. Look, Jesus Christ on the cross was immersed in a jar of urine. Did Christians like it? Of course not. Did they slaughter, maim, and blow up embassies? No, they did not. And so, inoffensive speech does not need protection. It's offensive speech that needs protection.
All right.
And the First Amendment is not the 8th or the 10th, it's the 1st, and it protects all speech, but most of all political speech, because who would decide what's good and what's forbidden? The Islamic State, these gunmen in Garland?
All right. Pamela Geller, we got to end it there, but your point's well taken, and your perspective is also given. And Pamela Geller, organizer of tonight's event, which was a Muhammad art exhibit featuring cartoon characters of Muhammad. Shooting taking place there, 2 gunmen taken out by Garland police officers. We are continuing to follow this breaking development. More coming up on the Fox News Channel.